The ranks of earning and their legal rulings. So this book is a commentary of Imam Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani Rahimahullah's work. Imam Muhammad is Imam Hanifa's student. Imam Hanifa Rahimahullah was a tabi'i. So he met Sahaba radiallahu anhu. So Imam Muhammad is a tabi'i. So the second generation, third generation of Islam. And then Imam Sarakhsi came later on and he did a commentary on this. So the chapter that we read, the ranks of earning and their legal rulings. Earnings of several ranks, like meaning that the levels of earnings that you require, levels of earnings that are required. So the maratib al-Kasb wa ahkamun. Earnings of several ranks. The first is the level of earning by which is indispensable for everyone. Like no, you can't do without it. This means that earning by which a person can lawfully strengthen his spine is individually incumbent on everyone. For the discharge of the obligatory duties cannot be attained except by it, and that which the discharge of the obligatory duties attained is in itself obligatory. The things that you need to do your fard, right? The things that you need to do fard, they're also fard as well. The means to the fard is also fard as well. So if you cannot fulfill the fard properly, that means there's something lacking financially, economically. Then you also have to do that as well. If he thereafter does not strive to earn more than what is necessary, he's at liberty in respect thereof, because of the statement of the Rasulullah ﷺ, whoever enters upon the morning in peace over his flock and healthy in his body, having food for his day, it is as though the entire world has fallen into his possession. Right? So he said, Rasulullah said, if you have these things, you have the whole world. Right? So do you have to earn extra or not? At least that much that you can, as he mentioned, that your back is straight, that you are not crippled in your life, to the point of that you cannot function. The Prophet ﷺ said to Ibn Hubaysh radiallahu anhu, advising him, a morsel that which you acquire that satisfies your hunger, and a piece of cloth with which you conceal your shame. And if there is also for your shelter that which shelters you, shelter doesn't mean a 4-bedroom townhouse in Doncaster. It's like we have our own definition of shelter, something just to protect you from the elements, from the rain, from the hot and the cold. And Salman Farsi radiallahu anhu, he asked his one Sahabi, he wanted to build a house for him. He said, build it for me, when I enter it touches my roof, and when I lie in it my feet and my head touch it. That's like, our cubby houses are bigger than that. We build cubby houses for kids, that's probably bigger than that. Like if you think about the measurements, it's a box in what we would think. So their idea of a house, not everybody was like this. I'm just mentioning that Rasulullah ﷺ saying to him, and if there's also for you shelter, which shelters you, then all that is good. And if there's for you a riding animal for which you ride, then it's the most excellent. For bakhin, like that's the best. So you got one ride, you got a roof over your head, you've got one piece of cloth to cover you, you've got a luqma, morsel. That's the word Rasulullah ﷺ used. Then you've got bakhin. Like that's like, how excellent, how good is that? Like that's Rasulullah setting a minimum standard. This is when he's not in debt. But if he's in debt, then it's mandatory on him to earn an amount that pays off his debt, because paying off debts is incumbent upon him, it's fard upon him as a personal duty. For the Prophet ﷺ said, debts are to be paid off, and by earning this is attained. So you have to earn. If you have debts, then you have to earn. It's fard upon you to pay out your debts. Likewise, if he has dependents like a wife and small children, then it is personally obligatory for him to earn an amount that is sufficient for upkeeping them, because providing infaq for his wife is incumbent upon him, right? For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, keep those women in the manner you live according to your means, which means provide for them according to your means. And this is in the reading, the qira'ah of Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anhu. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and it is the responsibility of the father to provide them with food and clothing properly. No soul is burdened beyond its capacity. He subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and let those whose provision is limited spend of what Allah has given them. This is a duty. This duty is most surely fulfilled by earning. The Prophet ﷺ said, it is sinful enough for a person to neglect those whom he is responsible to support. This is enough of a sin for a person. Hence, safeguarding oneself, taharruz from committing sins, right, is an obligation. So he's saying, he's giving argument after argument why it's fard to earn a livelihood. Why is it fard to earn a livelihood? There's all these other points of it, not just like in a general sense, very specific. There's huquq, fard huquq that are discharged, and they can only be discharged if someone earns a livelihood. The Prophet ﷺ says, verily your soul has a right over you, and your family has a right over you. So give to each right owner, the haqqin, his right. However, the obligation to the latter is lower in degree than the former. For the Prophet ﷺ says, then feed those whom you support. If he earns more than which he stores for himself and for his dependents, then he is at liberty to do so. For it is narrated that the Prophet ﷺ had food for his dependents stored up for a year, after he had earlier forbidden that. According to narration that he ﷺ said to Bilal radiallahu anhu, give away, O Bilal, and do not fear any decrease from the owner of the throne. The latter hadith abrogates the earlier. The latter hadith cancels the earlier. If he has impoverished elderly parents, he is obliged to earn enough to provide for them, because providing for them is a binding duty on him, even if he is destitute, even if he's a faqir, he's poor. It is a fard duty on him to provide for his parents. If what he says, impoverish elderly parents, he's obliged to earn enough to provide for them, because providing for them is a binding duty. The Prophet ﷺ said to a man who came to him and said, I wish to fight in the path of Allah, jihad with you. He said, do you have parents? He said, yes. The Prophet ﷺ said, return to them and fight. That is, make jihad in providing for them. That is, earn and provide for them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and keep company with them courteously in the world. And is not keeping courteous company to leave them both to die starving when he is able to earn. However, this is lesser than the previous case in obligatoriness, because of what has been narrated in the hadith that a man said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I have 1 dinar with me. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, spend it on yourself. He said, I have another one. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, dinar today is like $2-3, right? Last time I checked, it was $2.50 for one. This is dirham. Dirham is $2.50. So this will be how much would it be? 1 dinar is 20 dinar is 200 dirham. How much would it be? 10 times. So it'll be like $25 if we do it based on the silver price now. But it's much more than that. Now it's a certain amount of money, not a huge amount. Dinar is a gold coin. The Prophet ﷺ, if he times it by 10, then you get $25. But it's not $25. It's much more than that. Because gold price is much more higher now. There's a huge discrepancy between gold and silver. The exchange rate, you could say, in the time of Rasulullah ﷺ said 20 mithqal, 20 dinars was 200 dirhams. And if 1 dirham is worth, $2.50, so you just times it by 10. Sorry? $800. You calculated it? 1 dinar?
1 dinar, gold dinar.
Yeah. $800. MashaAllah. Oh, so times 20. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that sounds about right. Jazakallah khair. In the gold business, huh? Share some with us. We can't think of one coin worth that much. But anyway, I went to Kuwait once, and it's the first country that I went to where all my money disappeared. From Australia, we go to countries and money. There's so much barakah in the Australian dollar. Like expands. Like you have so much cash to flash. And then went to Kuwait, and I gave 100 and I got like 20 or 18 back or something. And then it was like used for one taxi ride, and then I understood when people come from outside to Australia that when like all their rupees or whatever, they all just disappear in just one taxi ride and one night in a hotel, and all the money's gone. So the Prophet ﷺ said, spend it on your dependents. He said, I have yet one another. The Prophet ﷺ said, spend it on your parents. As for non-parents among the unmarriageable kin, right, the wil rahim al-mahram, it is not obligatory for a person to earn to provide for them, because providing for them is not a binding duty on him, except in the case of the one who's affluent, the person who has wealth, he's rich. But it is recommended, it is yundab, it's mustahab, it's good to do, obviously, to earn and provide for them, since in doing so there is connecting ties of kinship, silatul rahim, strengthening the family bonds, relationships. And this is something recommended, mandub, by the law, the Sharia. The Prophet ﷺ says, there is no good in the one who does not like to have wealth in order to thereby connect ties with his kinfolk, and to thereby honor his guest, daif, and thereby be beneficent to his friend. Well, there's no good in a person He doesn't want to have money because then he's got to spend on people. Right? Because there's no good in, like, what a human being that Rasulullah ﷺ says, there's no good in such a person. He doesn't want to have money, or maybe he hides it so much that he doesn't want to strengthen his family relations by spending on family. He doesn't want to, like a dayf, guest comes, he doesn't want to spend on his, he doesn't want to have guests, he doesn't want people to know his money, and so forth. He doesn't want guests coming over, then he has to spend from his money. There's no good in such a person. And therefore, and the last one, that he thereby be beneficent to his friends as well. That he, shouts his friends, as we say, and that he spends on his friends. Right? We want, like, who wants a friend like that? That he is a friend who doesn't spend on his friends. The Prophet ﷺ said to Amr ibn As, radiallahu anhu, I desire for you a desire of wealth, until he said the words, the most excellent wealth is for the virtuous man who renews his relations with his kinfolk. The most virtuous, the best man is the one who makes strengthened family relations. This is to the extended family. The severing of kinship is prohibited because of the statement of the Prophet ﷺ. 3 things are suspended by the throne. They hung from the arsh. Blessings, ni'mah, trust, amana, and rahim, kinship. Blessings say, I was shown ingratitude and not appreciated. Like, they have a nearness and a special place in which they can complain against the person who mistreated. So blessings say, I was shown ingratitude and not appreciated. Trust says, I was betrayed and not nurtured. And kinship says, I was severed and not joined. Like the family, qat rahim is a major sin. The Prophet ﷺ says, this goes against the grain of the modern sort of society, where we're very individualistic, and we thought to be very individualistic, but that doesn't fly with Islam. Like that doesn't work with Islam. Islam requires as an obligation to make Silat al-Rahim, to join the ties of relationship. We have to know who our relatives are, because we have to make an effort to join to one relative, cousin actually. Like, he became wealthy, and the reason he became wealthy because that's one of the promises of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All the relatives everywhere in the world, he calls them. Just like say Assalamu alaikum and how's everything going. He doesn't ever ask for money or anything like that. Maybe thinking he's asking for favors, but they never. But like, because of that, he actually in life he got a head out of. And I know that he does it because he's an alim. He knows the hadith, so he actually makes it a point to actually call everybody, and maintains across the world, throughout the whole world, he'll call everybody. So it's you have to invest time and energy into something, an endeavor like that, but it's part of our deen. The Prophet ﷺ says, and in this society generally, these things are not that important. Like, even if we find someone, he's from another same nationality, or same town or city, maybe take the kid out, inshallah, if disturbing. Jazakallah khair. Like, we like, you find someone from our own tribe or our own family. This is like part of that thing of like, we connect, to our own tribe. It's a natural thing, and it's part of this thing. And if in this society generally doesn't make. There's one brother who was telling me, he's a convert to Islam. He's like white convert to Islam. He said, I don't know why you keep bringing other white people to me. Like, every time someone new becomes Muslim, he goes, you bring him to me, and like, we just look at each other. I was telling a friend, as a brother yesterday, he's a convert. He goes, I don't know why they do that. There's a new guy, white guy becomes Muslim, they bring him to me, he goes, all right guys, like, you guys can, like, make connection. And he goes, we just look at each other, Assalamu alaikum, salam brother, nice to meet you, and we just go our own ways. But he goes, you keep doing this. Every new white guy you bring, maybe not everyone's the same, but he said, I don't know why you do this. Because we have no point of connection, like which tribe you're from. I'm Irish stock, I'm Irish as well, and I'm from such and such a town back in my grandfather's from there. Oh yeah, then we connected for life. And so because it doesn't mean anything to us. I don't know why he insists so. But Islam, we do have that thing of like, even by far away, and who has that in Australia? Aborigines. They have this very strongly in their cultures. Silat al-Rahim is very, very important for them. Like, their mob, their tribe, and then even the extended, like, the way is very similar to almost like Muslims. And they appreciate Muslim, like, I was in Alice Springs, and there's obviously a Aboriginal man, he come up to you, he said, oh, we have relations with, he'll just come up to you random, you don't know him, and you say hello to you, and he said, oh, we have relation, we're connected to the Satur. These are the mixed Aboriginal Afghan descendants. Like, he goes, we are connected to the such and such a family, we're connected to such and such a family. Like, he had to come up and say to you, so they have that, and many times it's happened that they need to express it, that we are, as like, we're not related because we're Muslims, Muslims, they had to like say something that we are connected to you through family relations, even though we ourselves are not directly connected to them. So Rasulullah ﷺ says, the joining of bonds of kinship prolongs one's lifespan, while the severing of kinship takes away blessings from one's lifetime. And the Prophet ﷺ says that when he narrated from his Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala, I am the benevolent, ar-Rahman, and these are the wombs were here, ar-Rahim, I derive from them a name from my name, so whoever joins ties of kinship, I shall join him, but whoever cuts ties of kinship, I shall cut him off. There is something in the neglect to provide for kinfolk which leads to the severance of kinship. Hence, it is recommended to earn in order to provide for them. We'll stop there, inshallah. I have a class in 3 minutes with my teacher, so I have to attend to that, inshallah. If I start another chapter. The next section is on the permissibility of earning and to amass wealth through safety lies in not, those safety lies in not doing so. Then in earning, there is a means of cooperation in acts of devotion, and then the permissibility of lowly earnings. So inshallah, we'll cover this.